jugs machine do its 111th yesterday?
We got one on order, so it'll be here hopefully in the next couple of days.
What did you get out of yesterday?
Just a couple things. Number one, we wanted to take care of these guys' bodies because we're going back. It's going to be about a 2-hour practice today, and then we follow that up with family night, which however you want that intensity to be. I mean, when you go out there and there's 50,000 plus fans, it's going to get amped up. So just want to take a little bit of a load off their body, but I did think that as far as the guys being mentally locked in and mentally engaged, I thought they did an outstanding job. We were able to work some situations that we needed to get in, and so I thought it was a pretty productive day.
Speaking of situational, the DeGuara on the reception over the middle, does he have to make sure to give that to a ref? And I guess it would have been an equipment guy at this point, rather than give it to the center? Is that the coaching point there?
Oh, you're saying, yeah, when we clocked, yeah. Yeah, and there's some other subtleties that go in there as well that don't want to necessarily give away to everybody, but yeah, we're still working on that operation. That was the first time we've done it in training camp. Not that that's an excuse or anything, because we've been coaching it the same way for a while. But yeah, absolutely, we got to get somebody in there, and you can't snap the ball unless you give it to the official.
That end of game rehearsing, I could be misremembering it, so tell me if I am, but I don't recall seeing that in jog-throughs in years past on the field. Is that something that you've done more in the classroom in the past and you transitioned it to the field, or?
You just weren't looking for it, I guess.
Okay.
All right. No, that's something we always do, and it might not be in that particular setting. It could be in an evening jog through, but we're always trying to educate our players and talk about. And there's some things that come up that you don't necessarily plan for. So I think the more you do them, they naturally occur, and gives you some good talking points, first amongst our staff and then with our players as well.
Now, will the installs be finished for family night, or you still got some stuff to carry into next week?
There's still a few things that we'll add into our systems.
Speaking of family night, Matt, it's just a practice, right? But as far as critiquing it and grading it, and
Just a practice.
right, I guess
Sound like
it's
Allen
more
Iverson.
than just a practice, because it is sort of game-like. I mean, is there? I guess at the end of the day, when you're reviewing players or critiquing it, is there any more weight on this than what's going to happen today, for instance?
No, I think they all weigh equally. I do think that it's just you're changing the environment, and for a lot of our young guys, it's their first exposure in obviously in Lambeau, but with our fans, and there's, I think, a natural excitement and potentially an anxiety that goes along with that, knowing that there's a lot of eyes on you. But you know, at the end of the day, it's still football, and we got to train our guys to kind of have that mindset that you go out there and you compete just like you would any other day.
Will there be live tackling tomorrow night?
Potentially. I'm going to keep you guys on the edge of your seats.
If tomorrow night's about the fans and the community, today there's a lot of players' families here at practice. What do you think that means to them to be able to work out for them, especially for some of these rookies and having their families see them approach for the first time?
Yeah, I think that's such a great experience for everybody, and you know, it's a special thing that these guys get to do, that we all get to do, and to be a part of the National Football League is, you know, it's taken a lot of work for all these guys, but it's an incredible honor. So why wouldn't you want those guys to experience that with their families? And but at the same time, you got to get to work, and you got to put the work in. You got to be intentional about your work, and you know, at the end of the day, you just got to keep improving.
Matt, we've seen you work obviously a lot of different O-line combinations, but the two constants with that one group have been Myers at center and Runyon at left guard. What do you like best about maybe those guys as a pair and working side by side there?
Well, they've had a lot of time together, so I think naturally they would be the favorites at those spots. But like anything, you know, we're gonna have a great competition, and it'll get interesting as we get some of these guys back as well.
For offensive line, will there be a point maybe in this next week where Jordan gets to run with the group, that you'll put him out there in front of the 49ers? I mean, does he need to have a little bit of that rhythm, a couple of periods next week before Friday night?
Potentially. We'll just play it by ear, though, and certainly we want all our guys to go out there and have success, but I think a lot of times as a quarterback, you're less concerned with those guys in front of you, especially in a practice situation when you're not going to get touched, hopefully, although we've had a lot of close calls. But, you know, I don't think that – I think the center is an important part of it, obviously, just for him to hear your cadence. And so you can get that feel for when he snaps the ball, especially when you're, well, I guess whether you're under center or in the gun, just the velocity, some of those guys have a little bit different. So I think that is probably more important than the other spots.
Coach, do you talk to the players at all about Packers great going into the Hall of Fame with Roy this weekend?
We have not hit that yet, but certainly got a lot of respect for Leroy, not only as a player, but as an ambassador of the Green Bay Packers. You know, I think his work on the field kind of speaks for itself. I think it's long overdue. But, yeah, just I don't know him that well, but I like what I have seen out there. And he's been super supportive and just really excited for him. And what a great honor, the highest honor.
I'm not sure if Patrick Taylor's going to be back today or soon, but you're down to 4 running backs. Is that an okay number, or you have to be a little cautious with the remaining guys? Yeah,
that's something that Goody and I have talked about, and certainly we don't want to go into the first preseason game with 2 backs. I doubt you'll see Aaron Jones or AJ in that first preseason game. So, you know, we'll see where we're at with Patrick as it gets a little bit closer.
Speaking of AJ, Bolt had some great comments about him yesterday. How have you noticed his commitment to truly becoming an all-purpose back and excelling in all of those areas?
Well, I think you see it on the field each and every day. He's first of all, I'll say about AJ is he's extremely intelligent. He's a great teammate, but you have seen him mature as a man too over these last couple of years, and I think we knew he had pretty decent hands coming out, although they didn't throw him the ball a whole bunch. But I think as a receiver out the backfield, he's exceeded all our expectations early on. And now it's just it's a great luxury to have a guy, because rarely do you see a back of his stature that has the body control that he has and the hand-eye that he has. And he's done some damage in the passing game, and whether it's catching a flat route and being able to, turn up the sideline. A lot of guys, when you're that big and you're that fast, you catch that and you can't help, but your momentum takes you out of bounds. And he just has really good body control, and we're lucky to have him as a running back for us, and he's done a great job in pass protection as well. I think that's an area that most backs, coming into this league, they're a little bit further behind because there's less required in college, I would say, and there's less looks. So I think that's an area that he continues to improve upon, and but he goes about his business the right way, and it's really cool to see when you see a guy come in, and there were obviously some high expectations for him coming out, being a second-round pick and all, but he's done a hell of a job.
When we asked you about receivers this spring, you were pretty adamant that you need that perimeter playmaking, but when you have 2 complete backs that can be a factor in the passing game, how much does that open up for your creativity to get both Aaron and AJ on the field together at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you saw it a couple of years ago when we were down some wide receivers in Atlanta, and I think we had all 3 running backs out there. So, we always say it. The only thing that limits you is your imagination. So, we'll try to get as creative as possible with those guys. I mean, they're 2 great players, and you want to get your best players the ball, and certainly having those 2 guys is definitely a luxury.
Rasul Douglas, we heard from Roger yesterday, his mind is elite. He put it up even compared to Charles Woodson. You've been around a while, obviously, around football. Where does Rasul's knowledge of the game, is it up there for one of the best you've seen? Yeah,
first of all, he's super intelligent, but like just the conversations, the back and forth, it's pretty rare to have a guy that has the knowledge, and I think that's, you know, why he's been able to make a lot of plays. He's so good at recognizing formations and splits and understanding what routes come from each split, and he's been able to jump a lot of balls. He's got great ball skills, and he's just a great competitor.
It's still amazing he was on a practice squad. At what point did him coming in the building, did you realize just how intelligent he was as a player? When did that strike you?
Probably when he went out there and got his first pick. Yeah, he picked it up quickly, and you know, there's no looking back now. You rarely find a player of that caliber. I can't remember a time that I've been on a team that you picked up somebody, you know, in the start of the year or whatever, and they make that big of an impact on your football team.
Was that an intelligence play? Because we see the quick reflexes and the reaction to the football in that pick in the end zone, but in what way, in your eyes, was that kind of an intelligence play for him?
I think everything he does is he's just always using his mind, but certainly he's got great ball skills as well, and just the focus and concentration in that moment, especially it sometimes gets, you know, this is a game of momentum, and it wasn't looking great at that point, I would say, and but he made a huge play for us, and it wasn't just that play. There were many plays throughout the course of the year, obviously. That great pick versus the Rams, great one versus Cleveland. So, you know, he just made a lot of splash plays for us. And the thing I love about him, and this is what you don't always see with corners, is he's a physical guy as well. He's not afraid to put his nose in there and make a big hit.
Two more, please. I remember he told us last year that he had never really learned how to watch film until he got here. For someone of that, you know, intelligence level and that feel for a defense, to then learn how to truly study film, I mean, how much does that raise the ceiling of a player in that way?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of this thing, and we're lucky to have a guy like Jerry Gray, who's an unbelievable mentor and coach for these players. And, you know, he's got such a unique story in terms of just being a first rounder and playing at the highest levels, and then his track record as a coach. He's had a lot of great secondaries and has coached a lot of great players, and I think he does such a great job of making these guys intentional about their work, giving them something to focus on, motivating them, and really simplifying the game for our guys.
Coach, you've told us how much you've learned from Rich. What are some of the feedback that you've gotten from your players?
Well, I haven't had a ton of conversations with them in that regard, but I can tell you that when he walks in a room, he demands respect, and he coaches these guys hard, but they play hard, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think he's well liked as well, and I think that is an art, and not every coach can do that and be so demanding, so hard on these guys, but he does such a great job of building them up as well and putting his arm around those guys, and those guys know he cares about them.